Listen, real talk, why are you building a job when you're trying to build an empire, right? You got a Fortune 500 potential company moving through your account, but you're still running the whole operation like you're on WhatsApp. And listen, if you're trying to get the bag from the banks, if you're data furnishing to the bureaus, if you're moving debt in the markets, this isn't just about being organized. It's about your company being bulletproof for compliance, fast approval, and so you guys can continue to scale, all right? So welcome back to another Workshop Wednesday. Again, I apologize for not being readily available, but we've had some really interesting transitions and some really positive things happening, not only with the community, but also with our business internally, with some of our client base. So there's been some transition, but we are back at it yet again for another lesson. So today's lesson is all about communications, and it's predominantly communications amongst our businesses, amongst ourselves as entrepreneurs, right? So one of the things that I noticed that we can struggle with is the ability to communicate amongst our teams, and as we grow, how that communication can continue to grow with us. So I've got a bit of an opening statement that I'm going to do for everybody, and then I'm going to kind of take it from there. Off top, let's start here. So the communications architecture, we want to go from chaos to data-driven empires, right? And there's a certain theme that I want you guys to continue to understand when working with us, and when it comes to our communication style and the way that we're building inside of this community. We often come from a space where we hit the ceiling at small business level, right? The angle that I teach from is from an institutional level, right? But there's an interesting take on that, because the average employee comes from a corporate background, right? That average employee that comes from that corporate background, they believe that they understand the institutional level, but they don't. They understand it from the standpoint of an employee that's involved with an institutional company. But this is about build out for yourself to get to the institutional level. So, all right, let me give you some quick stats, or just quick perspective on what this actually is in real time. So for example, starting off, you have the Small Business Administration is pretty much the one who kind of grades the stages and the sizes of all of our companies, right? So on small business, right? Small businesses are usually businesses that are doing upwardly around $0 to $10 million a year, right? And I mean that in very literal sense. That's an actual number, $0 to $10 million. Now, again, it also has to do with employees. So it's 1 to 100 employees. That puts you in the small business range, right? So, but how do we get this thing to an Amazon level? How do we get it to the FedEx level? How do we get it to the Walmart level? How do we scale it to that point? And I can almost guarantee you that this starts, the beginning, middle, and end of it all is about the way you communicate inside of your system. This isn't just about quick funding hacks. This isn't just about how we can raise the bag real quick. No, this is about how you build a sustainable business model to scale to an institutional level, right? So that's what we're getting into today. All right. So in that respect, the communications architecture from chaos to data-driven enterprise. So why most entrepreneurs build a job and not a company. Most founders don't fail because of a bad product or weak marketing. They fail because their communication system is stuck in group chat mode. And I'm sure some of us, how many of y'all are part of those, part of the church group chats? I mean, I am too. While the revenue is trying to operate like a Fortune 500, they're flying blind, not collecting the data, because data collection is important, that would show them exactly where their bottlenecks are. Who's about to quit and which clients is about to churn, right? Tonight's mission, the exact communication architecture that takes you from solopreneur to enterprise, the data layer that tells you when to scale, when to hire, when your system is about to break or not, why this isn't just operational hygiene, it's how you get funded. And I wish so many more people understood how much your communication systems, because we're systems builders. Mogul makers are systems builders, team builders, right? And again, let me speak to that point really quickly. Here's the reality. The ability to build a business is the highest valued skill in the planet. I'm gonna say that one more time. The ability to build a business is the highest valued skill in the planet. There's no other business skill out there more valuable than this. The people that build the Amazons, the Walmarts, and every other massive company that we can all think of, those are the people that are the highest paid people on the planet, right? Those are absolutely the people that are highest paid people on the planet. So the reason why that's important is because that's what we're here to learn. We're here to teach each other different skill sets, ultimately to build that out. And I believe communication sits at the centerpiece of it all right? So let's let's dive into how are we building up our actual communication systems. So the evolution principle, it's in Dunbar's wall. So the reason businesses get stuck at the same revenue level for years is it's a biological limit, Dunbar's number. And this is actually a principle. It's a business principle that I've even studied myself. How many business relationships the really human brain can manage simultaneously? Your communication structure must evolve before you hit these walls, not after you crash into them. So this is, if we can do this, we could prevent a lot of things from happening, right? 1 to 5 people. And again, that's Dunbar's number. Dunbar's wall is a psychological principle, right? You guys can take time to look that up while I'm talking about it. But look up what Dunbar's wall is, right? 10 communication lines, 1 to 5 people. So 1 to 5 people can handle 10 communication. Everyone knows everything intuitively. Feels like it scales, but it doesn't. So an example of these 1 to 5 people is, just very, very, incubator, small little team of people. And listen, some people have built some really massive businesses. And also to talk to that point, some of the business models that are being built nowadays, and again, I'm sure my guy Cedric could probably talk to that point. Listen, when I tell you right now, the heads of the AI juggernauts, they're looking forward to the first business that is ran by a single living human being that generates $1 billion in revenue. And some of the things that I was working on just today, I can see it coming. It's coming. It's absolutely coming, right? But that doesn't negate the fact that we still have to build communication systems that are imperative to the business model. So, of course, we're getting away from a lot of the tedious tasks between the 1 to 5 people, right? We're able to improve our efficiency because of AI. But again, don't negate AI as if they're not actual agent or players or team members on your team. You have to look at them as if they were your actual team members. But again, that 1 to 5 people, they can only really kind of comprehend or even capture the idea of being able to communicate with only but so many people at one time, right? And I mean, again, if you think about your own attention span, I guess that's just a real reality. How many people can you communicate with in one room at one time, right? 5 to 15 people, 105 communication lines. The crisis of autonomy. Founders become bottlenecked in every decision. So, and again, I'll keep myself completely honest and transparent with everybody. This is the stage that I'm at right now. The 5 to 15 people, I've become bottlenecked. Now, don't get me wrong. I've already identified the transition, right? And those are some of the transitions that I talked to you guys about. This is also part of the reason why I felt like it was so needed for me to have this communications with everybody about this topic, because it's just that imperative. When you're building out your business model, imperative it is for you to still dial in on your communications channels, because visionaries of the company, we often get bottlenecked in the company. You know why? Because we know everything about the topic. That's why. So Dr. Pang, for example, I'm positive you're going to experience getting bottleneck. And what bottleneck means is just that you are the single information source in the company, single whole decision maker in the company, right? No real decision can get past you without you being involved. Obviously, there's not enough bandwidth for that to happen. So this is where delegation comes into play. But 15 to 50 people, the hallway moment. You see someone you don't recognize. Silos from culture starts to fracture. So what it's saying is just when you're starting to build out the company, you end up bringing on so many people in the company that were there in the core start looking at each other and like, yo, who are you? Has anyone ever experienced that? You're working at a company, even with a job or even with your own business, you get yourself to a point where other people on your team, even if it's not you might be doing all the hiring, so you might know everyone, but other people on the team are literally looking around like, who the hell is this person, right? And again, that's the 15 to 50 people range. 50 to 150 people, 11,175 potential line communication. Relationship-based coordination must give way to system-based coordination, right? It must give way. So if you, again, as you scale and grow, you have to create some of these implementations at every stage. And we're going to go over those tonight. All right, stage 1 to 5 people, your communication stack. So your primary tools, you're going to use SMS, right? Text messaging groups, WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram, even social media. Some of us are communicating through social media, right? Documentation. You're going to have voice notes saved to a knowledge dump. So if you have like a Google Drive, right? You're going to save voice notes to your phone. You're going to save it, back it up to your Google Drive. You're going to back it up to whatever other space that you feel like you can organize it in, if it's organized at all, right? Decision protocol, verbal approvals, text confirmations for anything involving money, especially anything involving money. So for example, if There needs to be an approval, or someone needs to get paid. They're reaching out to you directly. They're directly messaging. They're not hitting up payroll. They're not hitting up anybody that has to do with HR. They're not going through any of the normal protocol, right? So sometimes you find yourself spending all day just paying bills. And that's actually not the best use of our time as architects of businesses. That's what we are. We architect businesses. We build business models from scratch. We create things clearly out of the clear blue sky from scratch, right? It's an amazing skill set. And again, as I say, I will stand by that. And I would love for someone to show me any numbers that refute my point. It is the highest paid skill set in the planet. So if you have been the type of person that can galvanize people, you're in the right path. Data you must collect now. So we want to go over some of that data. Decision log. How did you make that decision? The date, decision, who made it, why, executed outcome. Logging those decision processes. You know why? Because they create great SOPs. If you don't know what SOPs are, they're standard operating procedures. See, what you're going to find is you have so many times where you have these SOPs, these standard operating procedures. You're going to see that you're doing things really redundantly. The same thing after the other, same thing after the other. Email comes in, client goes out, and the same pipeline. You need to document that process as soon as possible and as many times as you can, just so you can create that standard operating procedure. All right. Another thing, and this is one of the things that I'm really big on. And again, I had apologized to Dr. Pang for this very reason. Client response time, hours from message to your first reply. The target is to get it under 2 hours. Sometimes it's not necessarily realistic because we're all human beings and we only have so much bandwidth, right? But ideally, I'm working to get our company to a 2-hour response time. Right now, we're at about 24 to 48 hours. So we're lagging, but it's far better than the 2 weeks that we've normally been experiencing, right? So weekly win-loss ratio. How many deals have you won? How many deals have you lost? How many customers have come through the door, meaning new leads? How many people have you been able to collect, right? So, and again, as I say this is imperative to every aspect of the entire company, every aspect of your business. Deals won versus lost, projects completed versus stalled. What is going on and how is that being documented into the company, right? You can almost find that you need an entire person, like a whole person just to do this. But again, myself, Cedric, and other people in the community will show you how to implement AI to help you out with that so you guys don't have to worry so much. So if you're losing more than 30% of deals due to follow-up, fall through, you need stage 2 tools today. All right. So let's go to stage 2. Stage 2, survival. This is the 5 to 15 people. This is kind of the structure phase. This, again, admittingly so, this is the phase that I'm in right now. This is the phase my entire team is in right now. So communication stack. You graduate from WhatsApp to Slack or Microsoft Teams. Some of you might have even used Microsoft Teams as some of your employers. And this is the reason why. Because again, it's just a very formal and a super efficient method of communications amongst the company. It's not coincidental so many companies use Microsoft Teams, right? Google has a lot of aspects of the exact same thing. Google typically has been more geared towards individuals and personal people and like personal lively stuff, but they've been really doing a great job about anteing up to try to run down more of the B2B services. But again, I was saying to my team, one of the most difficult things for us to do is to move people off of WhatsApp, which is where we currently are now, into Slack, which is way more efficient, a lot more isolated, way better encrypted, and it's not so bombarded, right? But getting people to maneuver over to that is going to be one of the major focuses for your communications. Your first dashboard is going to be Slack. Track Slack's active user versus total user. If it's under 80% active, meaning if your team is not actively on that platform, even though you've hired them and you have them on board or they're involved with the company, and you see that the usage is below 80%. And again, I identified them, right? Get off the platform. It's time to retool the team. We got to bring everybody up to speed. We might need a little bit of coaching to get everybody up there and get them over the top, right? Monitor public channels versus DMs. You're going to target 70% public. If more than half your messages are DMs, you have a transparency problem that will funding conversions. So now I don't want to say this in the sense of, because I think we need to know the difference between internal communications and external communications. In a case like this we're talking mostly about internal communications, but I'll get to the external in a few. External communications is how we're communicating with our customers, our clients, our potential leads, and our prospects, right? So the L10 scorecard, your first real metric, 5 to 7 numbers that that tell you if the business is healthy. For agencies, proposals sent, signed, delivered on time. For credit and funding, right? Companies like ours, right? So it's applications submitted, lender responses, documents collected, and funding closed, right? So the rule, if you can't pull this data in 5 minutes on Monday morning, your tracking is broken. Because again, we're going to get into weekly meetings and what those things look like as well, because those are absolutely necessary. It's necessary for the sake of team communications. It's not necessary for the sake of semantics, you guys. It's not semantic. This is actually real. And it does affect the bottom line of your business. Sales, follow, again, the lifeline, the bloodline of any company or the blood flow of any company is sales, right? We teach capital raising. And again, I'm going to go back over capital raising real briefly, real quick. Capital raising for us is debt, sales, investors, donations, all right? Or just free money, grants. That includes grants and everything else, right? I mean, and some of it could also be your profits, but for the most part, those are the four key things. And as business architects, we have to keep our eyes on those four methods of capital raising at all times. I'm going to go over them again. Cash flow, debt, meaning borrowing funds, investors, and we have to keep track of all the free money. If we do not have our eyes on these four things at all times, we are not doing our jobs. All right. I hope that makes sense to everybody. That is our respective jobs. Build teams, raise capital. Build teams, raise capital. That is our entire job. And if you look at any of the biggest billionaires out there, that's all they spend time doing, right? They have an R&D team that does all their research and brings them back the facts about things, because their job is to make decisions, build the teams that can help them make the decisions, and raise capital in every which way. All right. So let's go to the next step. Stage 3. So this is a 15 to 50 people. This is where we kind of want to start to get ourselves to. Obviously, let's say we have a small practice, we have a small firm, we're doing a consulting business. You will get to this number faster than you can imagine, all right? And the reason why I say that is because nowadays we're outsourcing all overseas. So currently to date, I believe we have about 18 people working for the company, right? In total. This is domestic and international people. So I don't want you to negate anyone that was potentially part of the company. And then I've got about 7 or 8 AI agents with another 100 more coming, right? That are all actively working at once. All right. So stage 3, success, 15 to 50 people, the system phase. And this is the phase that we're interested in graduating ourselves to sooner than later. So tools, you're going to use things like Slack, Teams with Zapier automations plus Asana or Monday, or you're just going to use a CRM. And actually even the concept of a CRM, for those of you that don't know, it's called a client relationship management software or customer relationship management software. There's, ones like Pipedrive, and there's so many different ones that are out there. If you just Google search CRMs for your industry. So CRMs for, and then you put the industry name in there, then, you'll get the point. So knowledge base, and this is where you want to collect the knowledge. You want to, because data is everything. If everyone hasn't noticed by now, if you haven't noticed up until this point, data means absolutely everything to everyone's company. Collect it religiously, right? Collect the data, compile the data. So, my sister Cassie, she does readings with me or for me. I bless her soul. But I would love to see the summary of some of those readings, the summary of some of the conversations that we may have had. I've been collecting summaries on just about everybody that I've done a consultation with. Now I'm finally compiling all of those summaries and all those conversations into actual compiled data, right? So just a couple of tools you guys can use. Notion, if you're not familiar, Confluence with structured hierarchy, departments, processes, and playbooks, right? So again, in the structured hierarchy, departments, processes, playbooks. Departments, processes, playbooks, right? Literally in that order. Departments, they have their processes, and inside of those processes, we have different playbooks. Does that make sense? Well, hopefully it does. All right, cadence, departmental stand-ups, daily, cascading L10s weekly. So L10s are basically just like your weekly reports, right? And then again, we do, when we say a stand-up, it's kind of an analogy for, hey, we want to hear from this department this week. So imagine you're obviously the leader of the company. You're now telling each one of the people that, and again, you might only have 10 people, and each one of them are respectfully in charge of their own department with no employees. But again, we want to hear from each one of those people. Stand up. I want to hear what you got to say, right? All hands monthly with financial transparency. Decision protocol, RACI matrix. So responsible, accountable, consulted, informed, right? Responsible, accountable, consulted, informed. All right. So operational intelligence data, informational velocity, right? Time from issued raise to issued resolve, right? How fast do you go from, oh shit, there's a problem, to, oh wow, we got that already taken care of, it's already behind us? How fast can we get that done? And again, we have got to become a community that is adopting AI, because AI will leave us the hell behind with some of the things we are seeing. And I believe these type of things can help us resolve some of these problems, right? And again, that's the idea of AI at this point right now. It's designed to be a set of tools that you can use to enhance your ability to do your work better, right? But okay, bottleneck ID. Who is the hub everything routes through, right? If they're out, does work stop? If, like, meaning is everything over with, right? That bottleneck, you have to identify who that bottleneck is, if there is a bottleneck at all. And if there is, you got to identify it and then start to think about how you can delegate to remove yourself from that bottleneck or replicate. Most of us as entrepreneurs, we come in doing everything and we do everything our way. A lot of times we will get in the way, thinking that our way is the best way, without the thought of training other people in different respective repetitive tasks. So sometimes it's a little difficult to identify that repetitive task that we're constantly doing, right? Knowledge vote usage, most access SOPs, search failures, time to find info. So how long does it take you to recall information or data that you need for specific situation, right? Weekly pulse survey, 3 questions on clarity, access, and support. Or below 7 to 10 triggers, immediate one-on-one. And that really has to do with how you're dealing with your actual team. If you're going to give them a one-on-one, if you're going to work with people, if things are really failing, again, our job is to build the department, then hire people to run it, right? We're entrepreneurs. Welcome to the game. Stage 4, take off. 50 to 200 people, the scale phase. So this is infrastructure. Slack also has an enterprise model. So Slack Enterprise Grid or Microsoft 365 Teams governance, portfolio view project management, internal wiki with AI search, BI dashboard visible to all staff via Greco board or Tableau, right? Cadence, async first, default to recorded video updates. Instead of you having to show up everywhere and everybody get on the damn phone call with you and everybody asking the same redundant questions, record it and then let other people respectfully in those particular departments watch it, right? Just record it. We use platforms like Loom to do that, those training recordings, right? Live meetings only for complex problem solving, monthly deal desks, cross-functional approvals, quarterly OKR, strategic planning cascade, right? So again, you should have quarterly meetings for strategy planning, because before you even got into the quarter, you should know what the objective of the next quarter already is, because we discussed this, right? Because we had a quarterly meeting about that, right? So, and again, I want you guys to see how you go from doing weekly meeting in the beginning stages, then doing quarterly meetings, because all the other SOPs have already kind of been figured out, right? Predictive data, meeting load per person, target under 15 hours a week for ICs, right? After hour communications is burnout predictor. If there's a lot of after hour communications, somebody gonna get burned out. And unfortunately, I've had to experience burnout several times, which is again why I've now started to structure things in the way that I have, right? Decision latency, time from problem identified to decision communicated. Automated alerts when employee Slack participation drops 50% over a week over week, right? So again, this is stuff that's being constantly monitored. I'm not telling anyone that you yourself has to constantly monitor these things, right? You will understand the different departments that you build out that is responsible for monitoring their own respective data. And then that data will then get conveyed back to you as the leader. This is how we build enterprise level company. Revolut correlation, link communication patterns to outcome. Deals with more touch points close at higher rates, right? Clients with sunset update churn less. Projects with daily stand-ups finish faster. This proves ROI to investors and the board. Again, now we're talking about institutional level talk, right? So what we're saying is that, listen, when there are more touch points, we call that amazing client experience. One of the biggest things that you guys are going to want to learn how to do as an entrepreneur, whoever you are at service to, if you're at service or if you're selling them a product, you are going to obsess over your client experience. Every single touch point that happens with that client, what is going on? You need to know, because that's the only way we can find ways to improve, right? It's the companies that don't give a damn. Like sometimes the slumlords or, the Lexington Law, for example, in the credit space, right? Terrible service, absolutely terrible service, right? But ideally, we could harness what that experience is like, because again, what we're doing is just simply asking ourselves, how would I like to be treated? And you guys know where that line came from. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Again, in business, that means you need to figure out more of your processes and the touch points with your clients. Listen, you close people at such a rapid rate when you show them that you give a damn, right. And again, just because you give a damn, and again, as you grow, people are totally understanding of the fact that you can't do everything by yourself, and most people that are along for the ride, they love to see your growth, and they will see your growth knowing that there are more of these respective things that are happening where they're constantly being experienced, you're constantly experiencing with the customer. All right, so stage 5, resource maturity, 200 plus people. The institutional phase, organizational intelligence, communication pattern AI, influencer mapping. Influencers, man, imagine that. Once upon a time, it was like celebrities and musicians and everybody. Now it's influencers. Who are the information brokers? If they leave, what breaks? Sentiment analysis. NLPs on Slack, Teams to detect moral shifts before surveys catch them. So before you even have to put a survey out, can we sense what the hell's going on inside of our company culture? Right? Network health. Are new hires integrated or isolated? Right? Tools, Microsoft Viva, Topics, Slack Enterprise, Gold and Grid Analytics, custom AI models. And trust me, you will be needing your custom AI models. And in fact, I would even suggest them at the smaller the business is, the more you're going to start wanting to rely on some of this AI implementation. Board level metrics, knowledge management, ROI, right? Search analytics showing reduced how do I questions over time. So you want to reduce as many of those as possible. Right. I tell you, there's nothing more frustrating than having a knowledge source inside of a company and constantly being asked, how do you do something? Right. You want to get people to the point where they're willing to look at the knowledge source in the company and study from there and then be self-propelled to implement. Right now, of course, there's a different tone sometimes with me as a coach, as an entrepreneur coach, because a lot of times I will actually work directly with people and I want that personal time. And I also want them to ask me the same question sometimes over and over and over, because again, the way people learn is different very vastly across the board. So, but when you're building up an institutional level company, unfortunately, you don't have the luxury of your time being divulged to every single employee in your company, right? So don't confuse my business model with the actual overarching model, because again, if I were to compare myself with someone of where this is potentially going, I'm looking at someone like Tony Robbins, for example. He's arguably the largest in the game in the coaching space, in the mentoring space, but he manages to touch millions, if not billions of people across the planet. Fascinating, and he does it by doing what's called a one-to-many presentation, which is kind of what I'm doing with you guys here now. Predictive capacity planning. If the communications volume grows 3x, headcount only 2x, hire coordination before burnout hits. So, make sure you're coordinating your growth. Organizational IQ, speed of information flows as a competitive moat. All right, let's go to the next thing. The 4-channel command structure. So let's break down what this command structure, what the actual structure looks like. Think of communications like lanes on a highway. When everyone drives in the same lane, you get pileup. Separate your communications into 4 dedicated purpose-built channels, each with distinct access rules, content standards, and data feeds. So channel number 1, the war room, right? Operations only. Revenue moving decision, blockers and fires. If you're putting out a fire, no good mornings, no gifts. Number 1 rule, if it doesn't affect revenue this week, it doesn't belong here, right? There needs to be a channel that is dedicated just like that. Like, it's serious in this room, right? We are the deal makers. We are the power players. This room right here, this is nothing but like true live high level business. We are only talking about the things that matter the most to the business in this particular room. So let's say on Slack or in your team's channels, or even for right now, if you're creating different WhatsApp groups, dedicated group that is not so generalized for everybody to be involved in, something strictly for the C-suite team or just the executives or the people that can really drive the needle home for the business. That channel is imperative because the communications between the people at the top means everything, right? And because we're the ones creating the decisions that fall down to everyone else. That's what all of you on this call are, right? Channel number 2, client command center, external experience and customer consistency. So CRM integration, I told you guys about that earlier. Clients should never have to ask, what's happening? What's going on with my credit? So this is a question that I've had to hear over the years, right? And again, because I started thinking like this, where I'm like, you know what? My client experience really needs to step up. I don't want my client to tell me, I need to tell my client. And it's the same way that I think you guys need to approach it, right? How many of you guys are getting updates from Apple haphazardly? Did they ask you? Did you ask them for an update? Did you tell Apple, hey, you know what? My phone's bugging a little bit. Can you? No, that's not how this works. No, they send you letters. Even when they update terms and policies, you get an email, you get informed. So the company or our companies have to be proactive about reaching out to our customers about, again, those touch points, right? If the touch point is initial communication, boom. If it's follow up, if it's Dr. Pang, I've been using an example all night. I'm going to do it again. We need to file a prescription for this client. Well, that needs to get out to the client. That needs to get out to them ASAP, right? And we need to make sure that they receive those communications, not just that we send it out and we ignore it. I mean, lawyers do that a lot, but again, we want to do it in such a way where people are actually able to look at our communications and say, "Damn, I can almost kick my feet up with this company," right? That level of client communications, right? So, channel 3, the knowledge vault. You need the knowledge vault. Institutional memory that survives turnover, SOPs, decision logs, playbooks, right? So the 3-click rule. Any information must be findable in 3 clicks or fewer. It's kind of something me and my AI came up with. But again, sometimes things are a little all over the place. But the beautiful thing about some of the AI technology that we can use now is that your AI agent can actually recall all of that in 1 click. You simply type a command, tell me what was the last reports for our onboarded clients over the course of the last month. Let me know what right? Out of those clients over the last 6 months, how many people have dropped off and have not continued making payments, right? I should be able to recall that data at any time. The reason why it's important is because this data that I need to teach myself how to navigate, right? Channel 4, leadership layer, right? Company direction, not daily firefighting. Principles only. Financial metrics, strategic pivots, and cultural reinforcement, right? Again, leadership channel, another leadership channel. And then also back to channel 1 in the war room. Sometimes that could also be our sales channel. A lot of times, most people, they might even refer to that as their sales channel. But again, when it comes to your leadership channel, no individual client names, only systems and bottlenecks. So in the leadership channel, we're only discussing how do we improve our system, right? All right, go to the next one. Channel deep dive, the war room and client command center. So the client command center, the no surprises rule. Clients never ask what's happening. Information flows before they wonder. Automations, so auto trigger status updates when project moves phases. Alert clients 48 hours before deadline risks. Celebration messages at milestones. And again, we all love to be celebrated, right? To make sure. It's funny because I was had a conversation with some of the people on our team, and we were discussing implementing just sending people birthday wishes, right? We essentially collect data about everybody and everything, and we're just now getting around to the point where we want to celebrate people's birthdays and people's perspectives and some of the major holidays or, some of the major causes that are out there, right? And just let people know that, hey, we giving it, right? Data generated, response time, satisfaction scores, churn prediction, right? Churn, for those of you that don't know, that's how many customers are coming in and falling off. That's your churn rate. Churn rate inside of your company is how many employees you hire versus either leave or get fired. Right? If your churn rate is high, then the model is really, really unsustainable, right? Tools by stage. Stage 1 to 2, email templates. Stage 3, HubSpot active campaigns. Stage 5, Salesforce with journey map, right? And Salesforce is a monster when your sales team gets on top of that. Channel deep dive, the knowledge vault and leadership. So the leadership layer, founders, C-suite, department heads only, right? Content, cash flow and runway. So this is the stuff we're discussing. Cash flow and the runway. How much runway do we have to launch this campaign, right? Profitability by segment. Strategic pivots, cultural reinforcement, right? So there was something major that we discussed about the culture of even the Mogul Maker Academy. And in fact, we even just had that question posed before we got this live going, was about, can we maintain this type of culture as we grow and we scale? What is the give and take? What type of rules, what restrictions do we want to add on? What kind of governing do we want to put inside of this? Because all that governing will create the culture of the community and, of course, our business at large. See, the no clients rules. Never discuss individual client names, right? Only systems and bottlenecks. All right. So let's go to the next one. The meeting cadence that scales. So this is just a quick example. You guys can screenshot this if you want, just kind of take your own note. 9 a.m. stand up, 15 minutes. What I completed yesterday. Hey, I'm Antonio and I run the marketing department. Let me explain to you guys what I completed yesterday. We did ... right? That's the stand up, right? What I'm moving today, where I'm stuck or parked or, 15 seconds, or park that. Stand up literally. So again, this is kind of I don't know, it's something psychological about the idea of people standing up in a room while everyone else is sitting. It's kind of like a person on the podium, right? So it's kind of what the inference of that came from. It keeps energy high and meetings short. Async video alternatives for distributed teams, right? 2 p.m. Pipeline pulse. Revenue focused roles only. Which proposals have been sitting unsigned for more than 48 hours? Which clients are showing churn signals? Which deals not excluded need executive intervention? So again, that's something that we're still working on implementing more in our company as well, is getting our sales team together essentially weekly for now until we really get our mojo, and then having those sales teams meetings again, literally 10-15 minutes. Let's just do a quick overview, let's see where we are, and let's get right back to it. 4:30, client sunset. Every open client and project gets a status update before EOD. Today we blank, tomorrow we can expect blank. You don't need to reply unless you have a question. So it eliminates the 11 p.m. Hey, what's the status panic, right? What's the deal with such and such? Where are we at with that, right? So weekly, the level 10, 90-minute meeting. So segue, scorecard, rock review, headlines, to-do review, IDS. So you conclude same day, same time, mandatory. IDS is sacred, right? Where you solve big issues, not just report on the big issues, right? This is where we're actually brainstorming and we're trying to figure out things. Sometimes someone else on the team has some data that we may need in order to be able to clean up our processes. Our marketing team often will tell us, hey, you know what? We've got this type of clog right now with social media because Meta is updating their policies in how we do our ads, right? But as a result, what's happening is we don't have as many leads coming into our business. Or hey, I'm having a bit of an issue with finding new institutions and getting people on the streets to be able to go into the bank so we can get more client banker relations to service our clients. So now we need to find other ways to start to deal with that. And again, other people on the team might have better solutions than just myself thinking about it, right? But if we never communicate it, then it never gets solved. The level 10 meeting, full structure. So again, if you guys could kind of screenshot this, segue 5 minutes. And this is just like a template layout. It's nothing that mandatory that you guys have to do, but just an idea of a template layout. So IDS, if you were wondering, identify, discuss, and solve with owners assigned. All right. Next night, real world case studies. We've got a real live Amazon employee in here who's doing some really big things with them. But again, this is a case study that I done on them. So teams of 5 to 8, feedable by 2 pizzas with single threaded leaders and direct communications, no cross-functional committees. Results, 60% faster decision velocity. AWS and Kindle move faster than competitors because decisions don't need consensus from 20 stakeholders. And in fact, you know what, before I even go too much further, Cedric, are you available to kind of speak to that point right there about some of the decisions that you've been seeing change inside of Amazon and the speed that it's been happening?
As far as well, I mean, one of the things is they did eliminate a lot of middle management, so there are less people involved in day to day. So it's like you have leads and you have managers. You don't have like somebody reporting to somebody who's reporting to somebody who reporting to somebody. So it's pretty much like the direct manager, and then you got the leads who handle the team, and that's pretty much it. So decisions are made pretty fast. It's not a lot of bottlenecking. So it's like this is what we're gonna do and let's do it. So it's pretty much at that point now. So and a lot of AI has been initiated too. So like I was
Right.
telling they pretty much got rid of a lot of the HR to people, and it's pretty much robot driven now
Yeah,
with bot.
I was going to ask you to that point. Can you explain? Because I know you told me in private, but if you don't mind sharing with the group, how many people have you guys had to let go? I think over the last 6 months,
Ooh. Uh as far as the company wide or just in my office?
just company wide.
About 40 some thousand,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, and so what that says to me is that there's a lot of consolidating going on, and the decision making is crunched down even lower. But again, with that being said, I saw Apple. Steve Jobs. He really prided himself off of the same things. He called Apple the biggest startup in the planet, and it was because of the way that they streamlined decision making, and they were able to really move fast. right? So, and let me get back into this last part of this lesson, and I'm gonna open up a little Q&A for everybody. So Netflix, radical transparency, financials shared openly in leadership layer meetings. Sunshine policy, no secrets about company performance. Monitoring meeting loads per engineer. More than 10 hours a week triggers auto reduction. Results, everyone operates from the same facts. No us versus them, right? We all want the team to feel like they're collectively involved. WhatsApp, lean engineering, 35 engineers serving 950 million users. And that's going to reduce even further because AI is even starting to replace some of those 35. Documentation, first culture. They're very much a documentation first culture. Every decision is logged. Support ticket rate was 1/100th of the industry average, thanks to self-service knowledge votes. So anybody that you go to a website, you kind of want to know, how do I do this or how do I do the how to have a knowledge vote that allows you to do self-service. There's a lot of it's like a standard process now. You don't need more people to scale. You need better structure. The hallway moment warning. At 50 people, founders stop recognizing everyone. This is where communication breaks first. Too many teams, no clear owners. The everyone knows everything issue, culture collapse, right? So to prevent that, have your L10 structure, cascading rules, and knowledge vote in place before you hit this wall, right? So there's a lot of that due diligence that we have to do to compile this data and put this stuff in place so our communications are seamless, no matter how big we grow. And you'll see that the growth is easy, right? Whenever I'm ready to start hiring new people on our team, I already have a built-in system of how I want everybody to communicate. And then again, it's time to take it from here to the next step. All right, so the 15-minute weekly data rule. Every Friday, spend 15 minutes running this audit. No excuses. This is the habit that separates operators who scale from founders who stay stuck. Stage 1, solopreneur or the small team. Check started /fast flag messages, anything unresolved. Count proposals sent versus signed. Your win rate, right? Check bank balances versus last Friday cash last Friday. So basically, and I don't know anybody who don't check their bank balance every single day, several times a day. But again, make sure you keep monitor of it. And then, did I document any decision this week? If not, do it now, right? Stage 3, grow business. So Slack analytics. This is when you're starting to look at dashboards and analytics. DM versus public ratio. Your target is 70% public, for your public analytics. Set L10 scorecard trending, green, yellow, red. Client response time average. Target is 2 hours, right? If somebody inquires, are you responding within a 2-hour period? Is a text, an email, or even some type of automation, is that going out within the first 2 hours? Knowledge Vault search queries plus survey results, right? So stage 4, through 4 and 5, scale up / enterprise level. So the dashboard, information velocity, meeting loads, and risk indicators, communication pattern alerts, isolation is burnout predictors, right? Financial correlation, which touch points drove revenue this week? So these are all questions that we're asking ourselves, right? We want to identify what the heck is happening throughout the process of the client journey or the customer journey, right? A system healthy. Are automations working? Oh my God, those damn things drove me crazy for the last several months, but we finally get it under control, y'all. Any failed workflow alerts, right? All right, next one, the funding and data furnishing connection. So what does your Slack setup have to do with getting a business line of credit or becoming a data furnisher to Experian? Well, everything. When you apply for institutional funding, you're asking financial entities to trust your operational maturity, and nothing signals amateur faster than disorganized communication, right? We've had some recent experiences with applying with the data furnishers, with the credit reporting agencies. And in some of that communications, they have asked us some really, really peculiar things. For example, they've asked us our SOPs. They've asked us about our data management, some about our workflows, how we encrypt data, sensitive data for our customers, right? All those things are so imperative when you're communicating with them. They want to know that the right proper emails are set up, simply just having the right email. Like again, when you're going for early stage funding, everybody says just set up the info at yourdomain.com. Oh, no. When you're doing data furnishing, now you better have your 10 company emails, your respective company emails set set up that are relative to the application process because they want to hear from each one of them, right? They want a dedicated phone line for the company, then they want a direct phone line to you, right? This is all part of your communication system setup, right? So SBA loans, 7A or the 504. Underwriters examine your operational structure, and they do. They want documented decision-making processes, separation of duties, so this boardroom versus leadership, and L10 meeting minutes showing strategic decisions, right? I've actually went to some banking institutions. I want to say it was Truist or one of these other institutions. We in the meeting, we got asked for so much documentation, and again, it was just that was their own measures for fraud prevention. But they asked us for our articles, our minute meeting stocks, our stock certificates, our actual some of our ledgers. It was crazy. I mean, our corporate seal, the whole get up. And I mean, granted, I had everything prepared. We were ready to go, but I was a little insulted that they were asking for so much information. But again, that's sometimes what you have to go through. Corporate credit lines, 50K to 500K. Banks run verification calls. They need client command center response times up to 2 hours. And again, we've all heard of the term secret shopper. Banks, data furnishers, all of them, they will secret shop your ass in a heartbeat. Do not think for one moment that you're about to get off just because your paperwork looked clean, because they can find you on the Secretary of State website. Absolutely not. They will come and do what's called a site visit on your location, and they are not playing. Banks run verification calls. So tier 1 lenders, Navy Fed, Chase, American Express. Algorithm plus human review. So red flags, all communications through one person. Founder bottleneck equals a business risk, right? Empty knowledge vault, regulatory risk, and client complaints about unreachability. So when they say client complaints, first off, for example, one of the things that I noticed that some of the institutions were doing is they were looking at our Google reviews or our Yelp reviews, and they were seeing what customers were saying about our business before they gave us approval for funding, and that was used as an actual metric in their underwriting. Like, wow, how shocking is that? Right? Data furnisher compliance, you're licensed to operate. If you're in debt buying, credit repair, or data furnishing, submitting Metro 2 data to Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, or Innovis, your communication system isn't a nice to have. It's a literal, you're licensed to operate. It's literally your license to operate. So physical office and audit requirements. I was just mentioning this. Banks and CRAs conduct site visits for data furnishers. Your war room must map out a physical operation center that can receive mail and handle disputes. Leadership layer L10s produce the board resolutions and compliance minutes that CRA's audits demands. Address verification, 411 listing, the documented operational procedures, because they will ask you for that, and non-negotiables for approval. There are non-negotiables. And again, it depends on which type of creditor you're applying to be, what type of accounts you're trying to set up, and the whole get up. But again, having some of those compliance things in place, we have come to find out are very necessary. Communication architecture and equals funding infrastructure. 40% higher approval rate. When someone answers the business line professionally with documented authority versus founder's voicemail, unless you guys don't think that matters, right? When someone's actually able to line, even if it's your AI, imagine that. AI can even answer your calls professionally, and it's not even looked down upon. You know why? Because institutional level companies, again, Cedric was just mentioning the fact that Amazon, he said to me, Amazon fired their entire customer support department, the entire department, and replaced it with AI. So now Amazon does not have a single human, maybe an engineer in the background, but not a single human answering your customer support calls. And they're probably taking more calls now, right?
For
So is it strange?
for Amazon Fresh, for the food department, they let go everybody.
No, that's
Yeah,
50,000 some odd people later.
yeah, for the food department, but the regular Amazon, you gonna talk to somebody in India. But I don't know if that's better or worse,
Right.
but for the Amazon Fresh, they fired all the customer service for them, and it's completely robotic.
Wow. Insane. Oh, wow. Insane. So 60% faster decision velocity. Amazon's 2 pizza team reduced time from idea to launch through structured communication ownership. So again, it's just a fancy way of saying just the same thing that Cedric said to you guys earlier. Listen, there is no manager to a person reporting to a person, and there's this endless upline. No, absolutely not. No, it's literally like 1 or 2 people up. Let's make the call, right? 30% meetings to cancel. Default, cancel 30% of recurring meetings during each monthly communication audit to reduce Meeting debt. So imagine that. Don't get stockpiled with a bunch of meetings, you guys. Sometimes we get into this idea of that every single meeting, we got to go take this meeting. We got to go take this. No, we don't. No, we don't. You have to be efficient in your business model. Take the ones that count. Take the ones that matter. Deal with the people that make the most sense to you, right? You caught a vibe, however you decide, whatever your decision process is. But, again, take the respective meetings internally and externally with the ones that make the most sense. 3x faster than typing. Async video updates via Loom or Vidyard. 3x cleaner, 3 times cleaner than email, 5 times cleaner, faster to produce, right? And I'll probably even put up some examples of like some of our videos. Maybe, I don't know. We have some of our trainings. The connection is direct. Decision logs equal proof of business maturity for underwriters, right? Let's go to the next one because we almost done. Advanced frameworks, async versus sync and communication debt. The async versus sync balance. Default to async, recorded video, documented decisions. Reserve live meetings for 3 scenarios only. Complex problem solving, relationship building, and crisis management. So the tools you're going to use, Loom. I love Loom. I'm just going to endorse them right now. I love Loom. Communication debt pay down. Just like technical debt, communication debt accumulates when you take shortcuts, undocumented decisions, unclear ownership, the pay down protocol. So monthly communications audit, review all recurring meetings, cancel 30% by default. Quarterly, documentation sprint. Every team updates their top 5 most used SOPs. Annually, channel purge. Archive any Slack channels with no posts in the last 90 days. All right, decision-making framework by stage. In stage 1 to 2, disagree and commit. Amazon's principle, make the call quickly, even if no one agrees. Even if not everyone agrees, sorry. Speed beats consensus. So, I'm a Virgo, for those of you that know. Us, and I believe Sagittarius, we have analysis paralysis all the damn time. So we get into analyzing and analyzing and analyzing and analyzing. So even with this, in this instance, I've had to become a lot better at just making the decision and moving forward, right? Stage 3, RACI matrix. Responsible, accountable, consulted, informed. Clarify who does what and who owns outcomes before confusion creates conflict, right? Responsible, accountable, consulted, informed. You're going to clarify who does what and who owns the outcomes before confusion creates conflict. So conflict prevention, right? Stage 4 to 5, rapid model. Recommend, agree, perform, input, decide. So separates input rights from actual decision rights. Critical when politics start to replace logic. But sometimes things become political inside the infrastructure of a business, right? So the quarterly communication audit, kind of went over that. The data-driven tools, again, we went over some of those tools throughout the lesson. The bottom line, you can have the best product, the best marketing, the best talent. But if you're communicating like a solopreneur while trying to operate like a scale-up, you're flying blind. You don't know if your team is about to quit until they've given you notice. You don't know if a client is about to churn until they cancel. The objective of this presentation and this lesson, you guys, is to plant a seed so we understand or start to recognize some of these things in our own business model. And the moment you start seeing communications go upside down is the moment you need to dive back into your architecture and reform it. And of course, you guys can always go back to the replay of Workshop Wednesdays and see, how to do it. How we build the infrastructure. Build institutional grade communications infrastructure alone is hard. You need this template. You need the templates, the scorecards, and someone who can audit your Slack setup and tell you the DMs to public ratio is killing your funding chances. So let me explain exactly what we do. And again, this is some of the things that we offer ourselves internally as a company. Project Mogul Enterprise, we build infrastructures to get ready for capital raising, and we build systems for people in the very same fashion, right? We will help you build your estate planning because that's a complete system in of itself, or we will help you do your asset planning with all of your respective businesses. We've done this countless times, and I have worked with countless clients on this process. It's also the reason that I've created this community and decided to take the lead on helping people learn what this stuff is about. Again, I'm an open book, and I'll give you guys the education. If you ever want to work with us, I want to let you guys know what this looks like right now. So, for example, our infrastructure audit, it's a $2,500 packet. We analyze your current communication stack, identify your Dunbar ceiling, and deliver an exact stage migration roadmap with tools configured and ready to implement, right? The L10 implementation, set up your level 10 meeting structure, train your leadership team, build your scorecard, and facilitate facilitate your first four sessions until the rhythm is self-sustaining. The data furnishing compliance. We stepped away from this for a little bit, but again, we're going to get back to it just a little bit. And again, there's so many variables in this data furnishing thing. We have to have like full-blown discussions before we even step into this. So data furnishing compliance. And again, these are things that we offer, right? And I felt compelled to make sure that I explained some of our offers to our community because there's been a massive gap between that communication of what we do on the macro scale versus what the community just actually is. The data furnishing compliance, $7,500. For those entering credit/data furnishing, full war room architecture with Metro 2 tracking, dispute resolution workflows, the CRA audit ready documentation system, and so much more that goes along with that. And then the complete enterprise build, 4-channel implementation, automation setup, knowledge vault, construction, and 90 days of communication ops management. We run your L10s until you can fly solo. We have prided ourselves on being the back-end system to several companies, right? And again, I want to formally put that offer out to you guys. But again, we do infrastructure building, so everything from simple formations, trust development, estate planning, and also all of your communications and operational systems for your company. We do it for the exact same reason we all want it. It's to raise capital. You guys remember the 4 methods of capital raising that I discussed: cash flow, debt and or institutional capital, investors, and every bit of free money that you can get your hands on, donations to grants, right? That's what this entire thing is about, building that entire system so you can be well equipped and far better positioned to be able to do just this. All right. So I'm going to stop that presentation on that note. And I want to give you guys some time to kind of open this up for Q&A. Any tie-in that you guys feel like you have with respect to your own company or your own business model, how this could possibly tie into where you guys may be right now, and how we can, either work with you or if you just want me to simply answer some questions on the live right now about how it can help or different aspects that maybe to help your business. Again, even if it's funding related, that's fine because it's all ties in for the same purpose. All right, Ashley, what's going on? You got your hand up.
Hold on. I just had one question. I was taking notes. You mentioned runway. Do we have to launch when you're launching something? When you were referring to how much runway you have, were you referring to how much cash flow or money would be available as far as that? Is that what you were referring to? Just to make sure I'm following.
Okay, no. So when we say terms like runway, it has a unilateral meaning. So for example, the runway could be how much startup capital you have. Listen, we built everything that we're developing ourselves on a shoestring budget, and it's just now starting to pay dividends, right? So I never like to discourage anybody that, hey, if you're starting with minimal amount, sometimes you just need to get out there and sell what you're selling, right? But runway has to do with planning time, your timeline for your plan. So every phase or every stage of your company, are you giving yourself enough runway for planning, implementation, and execution? Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. I'm open to any other questions. Anybody else want to know anything else about anything else? I'm totally an open book. And again, like I say, you guys, every one of these workshop Wednesdays is just designed to be another breadcrumb, another nugget that you guys can, dive in on, right? Just something additional that you can add into it. All right, I'm sorry, I didn't even see the comments on the side. It goes from mom to pop phase to positioning itself to go public. Seeing that Salesforce, yep, Salesforce is CRM, wonderful companies. No, absolutely. You will see that as you grow as a business, that your internal operations will be a defining factor of the way that people see the value of your company. And it's interesting. One of the things that I think a lot of people overlook is the value of human capital. Do you guys know that you can monetize the value of human capital? There's an actual price value to that. It's amazing. And that is something that you're going to write into the balance sheet of your company or to your trust or to other things, depending on how you position it. But human capital is a very real thing. Now, how many people's lives do you have to manage, right? And then as you build that out, again, the intellectual property of the company, you guys, every single SOP, every single operational procedure, that's all intellectual property to your company. The way you feel like it needs to be done is intellectual property, and it makes your company even more valuable than before. So don't look at this like this is just a task. This is not just a task that you're doing. You're actually developing value for your business, right? We want you to be able to develop that value for your company. And nowadays, again, that's all that's being bought up by these VCs, private equities, and these institutional investors is intellectual property. You'd be surprised. I got to go back to my brother Cedric. He mentioned something to me about the Amazon methodology. And again, I've seen so many many other billionaires and wealthy people do the same thing. I've said this before. I've never truly been impressed by Bill Gates, right? Never truly been impressed by them because I believe he's stolen a lot of IP. And again, there's no knock to him. He's an entrepreneur. He's a capitalist. But there's a lot of intellectual property that he has used and had adopted, and he was just able to sell it and institutionalize it way better than anybody else. Right? It's the reason why I'm literally on Windows right as we speak. Right? Same thing even with Steve Jobs. And again, I think he's an amazing man. Legacy is unmatched. But he didn't invent the Apple computer. For those of you that know the history, he didn't invent the iPhone, tablet, or nothing else. He sold it really well, and he was an incredible visionary for the company. So again, I stand by my statement. The ability to build teams and build and scale teams, the ability to build systems, the most valuable skill you can have on the planet. All right. And on that note, I'm gonna let you guys go, and I really appreciate everyone's time. We had a quick little in and out for this one, but if anyone has any other last statements or they want to kind of go over anything else, you have a couple minutes, and I'm gonna let y'all do your thing. But other than that, I appreciate you guys tuning back into the next workshop Wednesday.
I have
Yes,
one
sir.
other comment really quick. If anyone here is willing to chat with me, I want to brainstorm like structuring something. If you're open to doing that, if anyone is open to doing that.
Yeah, and you could always book a strategy session with myself or anybody, again, anybody in the community. Listen, I would love for you guys to start also putting up posts about what you're doing yourself, even if you don't have a place to put it right now. Put a post up inside of the community. If you don't have a place that, hey, I just created a new SOP for my company, or I just developed a new relationship with a banker over at such and such. Again, post it, because these are these small little euphoric wins that we get inside of our heads that I think we can use. And then again, you'll start to see that the community is going to rally around you. So, utilize each other, right? And utilize me as much as you can. All right, guys, I appreciate your time. You have a good one. So again, come back on Monday for coffee hour. We will be live for coffee hour. Coffee hour is just a open conversation session. It's not about any particular lesson or any particular topic. We're just going to sit on live, be there for an hour or two, and we're just going to talk shop. All right. I love you guys, and I appreciate y'all tuning in. We'll be on for next time.
Yes, sir.